Welcome to NeverTheLess podcast with Bidemi Mark-Mordi, a show dedicated to organic leaders and leaderpreneurs. Today, you would learn how to discover your essence and live more powerfully.
Hi, God bless you and welcome to NeverTheLess, a show for organic leaders and leaderpreneurs. My name is Bidemi Mark-Mordi, and I know you've been keeping the faith with us. It's a brand new month, and that means that our series title is changing and topic is changing. This month, we're going to be exploring wholeness. We want to look at what wholeness means. We want to look at why wholeness is difficult to acknowledge. We want to look at the types of wholeness and want to look at what healing entails. So please keep the faith with us as we begin this journey. It's going to take a bit of time, but I'm hoping and praying that by the end of this series, each one of us would have taken another look at ourselves and maybe be bold enough to acknowledge our brokenness where we have broken spaces and bring ourselves to healing. The real reason why this has become a subject matter that we need to talk about and we need to pay attention to is because wholeness all around us is a broken word. So wholeness is become something that has to be looked at over and over again because of how men and women take a look at wholeness and the subject matter of brokenness. So the first thing that I'm hoping that I would be able to share with you is what wholeness means. According to dictionary, wholeness is the state of forming a complete and harmonious whole and unity. It's being at one. That's how I like to describe wholeness, the capacity to be at one. Wholeness is something that, brings us and puts us in a place where we are in alignment. Our goals are in alignment. Our aspirations are in alignment. Our health is in alignment. Our finances is in alignment. Everything aligns to the way God sees us and has ordained us. Anything out of sync means that a person is not in wholeness. Wholeness, or the word whole, is taken from the root word shalom. The word shalom is the word we typically know as the word peace. So when you say to someone that they should have shalom, they should have peace, you are saying to them that they should be at one. Their life should have some harmony to it. It means that everything, if they're parents, their bosses, their business people, their career people, whatever it is they do, there must be a center that is stable for them to continue to excel in what it is they do. Other definitions of wholeness that I'd like us to consider today is that wholeness is the quality of being complete and a single unit. The quality of being complete and a single unit. Wholeness is soundness. It is health. It is well-being. It is a coming together or an alignment of spirit, soul, and body so that there is no schism. Nothing is detached from the other thing. There is a fluidity and a flow in all that makes the man. Because the moment a man is not at one, it will show in many things that he does. I remember many years ago, I had a couple friend. And one day, the husband came to speak to myself and my husband about the quarrel they had at home, that himself and his wife. And he said something very profound at that time, that by the time I started to investigate and look at, I found out that it was the same in my home as well. What was this thing that he said to me? He said to us then that anytime himself and his wife quarrel and they are not in alignment and in sync, that when he goes to his place of business, he either makes tons of mistakes or he doesn't get to sell. And that became, by the time he realized the pattern, it became a cause of concern for him. And so he started to press for wholeness. The way they resolved it ultimately was that they agreed because they couldn't come to the point, and we're all human beings. We know that we will always disagree. especially in situations like marriage and family. But himself and his wife agreed that no matter what they disagree concerning, they made it a habit. They were going to formulate a habit of ensuring that before the day is over or before they go to bed at night, they review what it was that had caused their quarrels or what they were arguing about, and they come to a resolution. So wholeness can come when a man recognizes the gaps that he has or the things that are broken in his life, and he brings them to a resolution. So if I go back to the word peace or shalom, that word peace and shalom means to lack nothing, to break nothing, to miss nothing, and to want nothing. It's nothing lacking, nothing broken, nothing missing, nothing lost. That is what the word shalom means in its core. So when we begin to talk to wholeness, here's the picture that I want you to see. I want you to see a picture of your life where nothing is lacking. I want you to see a picture of your life where nothing is broken. I want you to see a picture of your life where nothing is lost. And I definitely want to see a picture of your life where nothing is missing. Now, someone listening may say that is impossible. There is no way any man can have it all together and they are not lacking something. You see, it's not in the scarcity of a thing that wholeness comes. It is in the attitude towards the scarcity of a thing. So if you say, my money isn't enough, and that is the reason why XYZ is not right with me. I mean, think about it. If a man doesn't have money, then how does he pretend that he is whole? The problem would not be that you lack money. The problem would be that there is something about how you view money. There is a place that you have given to money that does not augur well for your well-being. I hope that made sense. So wholeness is the quality of being complete or a single unit. It is a soundness of health and well-being. It is the coming together or the alignment of spirit, soul, and body. Wholeness is a state of forming a complete and harmonious whole. That's what wholeness is. Now, if you go with me to the Bible, because I am going to use a particular story through the episodes of this particular series to highlight what it is that I want you to see. If you go with me to John chapter number 5, I was going to read from verse 5 to 11, but I'm going to read from the beginning. From verse 1, it says, soon another feast came around, and Jesus was back in Jerusalem, near the sheep gate. In Jerusalem was a pool, in Hebrew called Bethesda, with 5 alcoves. Hundreds of sick people, blind, crippled, paralyzed, were in those alcoves. One man had been an invalid there for 38 years. When Jesus saw him stretched out by the pool and knew how long he had been there, he said, do you want to get well? If you read this in the King James translation, the question that Jesus asked the man was, do you want to be whole? Do you want to be whole? In verse 7, the sick man said, sir, when the water is stirred, I don't have anybody to put me in the pool. And by the time I get there, somebody else is already in. Jesus said, get up, take your bedroll, start walking. The man was healed on the spot. He picked up his bedroll and walked off. That day happened to be a Sabbath, and it goes on and on. But in this account, if you read it in the King James translation of the Bible, was a man who was at the edge of the pool Bethesda. Now, the thing about the pool Bethesda was that it had the capacity to heal sick people. So they said once a year or thereabout, the angel of God will come and stir that pool. And the first person who gets in receives their healing. And this particular man had been by the pool of Bethesda 38 years. I hope we know that this man, it doesn't say that the man has had his infirmity for 38 years. It says he's been there seeking healing for 38 years. And Jesus saw him. I mean, when everyone who comes to this alcove comes so that they can receive healing, why would Jesus look at this man and ask him, do you want to be made whole? And it is that question that we are going to continue to examine so that we can see what wholeness holds and why wholeness is important for us to live by. Jesus asked him, do you want to be made whole? And his response was, well, every time the water is stirred, I have no man to put me in the water. Before I can shuffle to get to where to get into the water, someone else has gotten into the water. And that's why I've been here for 38 years. The thing that is wrong or was wrong with his answer was that he did not answer the question. The question was, do you want to be made whole? And his answer went everywhere, but to say yes or no. Yes, I want to be made whole. No, I do not want to be made whole. As I read that scripture and I started to meditate on it, I asked myself, why is it so difficult to acknowledge wholeness? Brokenness, rather. What is it about brokenness that scares us to the extent that we would rather assume that we are whole rather than acknowledge that we are broken? You see, humans are delicate creatures. We are sensitive, we are intuitive, we are emotional. And all of these traits are responsible for how we evolve, and they give us leverage for transformation and growth. Three things gives a man leverage for transformation and growth. And those three things are the capacity to be sensitive, the capacity for intuition or to be intuitive or to be instinctive, and of course the emotional capacity of a man. These three things, when they are properly stewarded, brings a man to the place where he has leverage. That is, he has what it takes to go through transformation and to bring about change in his life. The conversation surrounding wholeness has become necessary because of the faulty perspectives that we all carry. And these faulty perspectives make it difficult for us to acknowledge when we are broken or when we are in need of wholeness. I want to take a break. When I come back, I want us to take a look at what these perspectives may be and what we ought to do to ensure that we get to the place where we're not hiding behind what we cannot do when we really are the ones that have the responsibility to bring ourselves to the place of wholeness. Please do not go away. I'll be right back.
In a world filled with many fears and discouragement, life often becomes a burden. For those who know the way, life is just simple. Do not worry, you're not alone on this life's journey, as Bidemi Mark-Mordi shares powerful insights and principles from her everyday work and life experiences in her book, NeverTheLess. NeverTheLess is a book designed to encourage and equip you to face life with courage, hope, and determination. Get a copy of NeverTheLess and other books written by Bidemi Mark-Mordi, like The Wisdom of the Seed, Honor, The Theology of Work, and so much more from a bookstore nearby, or call 080-905-63555, or send an email to bidemi@bidemimarkmordi.com to place your order. I guarantee you will make it, nevertheless.
Welcome back. It's still the NeverTheLess show, and my name is Bidemi Mark-Mordi. I'm running solo today, yes, because once in a while it just gets to happen like that. And we've been talking about wholeness. What is wholeness? Before we went on the break, we defined wholeness as an alignment between spirit, soul, and body, to have a harmonious flow, in all aspects of or spokes of one's life, is to be someone who is whole. Before we went on a break, I read to us from John chapter 5, and I talked about the man at the pool of Bethesda, who Jesus saw had been there for 38 years requiring healing. And Jesus asked him, do you want to be made whole? And rather than tell Jesus whether he wanted to be made whole or not, he started to explain why he's not been able to get in the pool. In the course of the last session, I also spoke about the root word for wholeness, that the root word for wholeness comes from the word shalom, from which we get the word peace. Now, as we've come back, I want to talk to us about the hang-ups we have about brokenness. The reason why wholeness is a conversation that needs to be had and taken seriously is because men and women are afraid to acknowledge that they are not okay. I was in a conversation with someone yesterday, and she said to me that one of the things that she's enjoyed from, being in a relationship with me is the fact that I find it easy to say to people that it's okay not to be okay. While we're looking for healing, it is important that we acknowledge our brokenness. But what is the reason why acknowledging brokenness is hard? This is not an episode where we talk about acknowledging brokenness, but we need to give a foundation as to why men and women struggle to find wholeness. And the answer that I know is because we have perceptions, whether they are traditional, whether they are cultural, whether they are societal. There are perceptions and perspectives that tell us that acknowledging brokenness makes us weak. These erroneous beliefs or perspectives seek to label a man's ability to be sensitive. They say that a man who is sensitive, for instance, is a weak man. What are they saying? They are saying you have to be tough. As a man, you have to have a tough exterior if you want to be known as a man. This perspective, another one is you hear things like men do not cry or men should not cry. So a man is standing, he's hurting badly, and everyone wants him to be standing up rimrod without any emotions. They want him not to cry because it is not meet or fit for a man to cry. Then we have the erroneous belief. One of them says that for women to excel in the boardroom, they have to think like men. I thought the boardroom was made up of business people. And if you want to excel in a boardroom, therefore, you have to think like a business person. But no, what they say is that they even did a whole movie around it, think like a man. And so you find women who are supposed to exude their femininity, doing everything that is possible to walk in places or to act like men because they've been told or they've been sold the lie that the only way they get to excel in what they're doing is to become like a man. We tell our boys not to cry. So a young boy falls down from a tree that he was climbing. He's hurt, and he should actually cry out so that help can get to him. But because we've trained our boys to say that boys don't cry, he doesn't cry out. And this has led to death in some cases. We tell ourselves that tough exteriors and hardness are synonymous to being men. We talk about alpha females, expressions like boss lady. And I've been wondering, why can't you just be a boss? Why do you have to be a boss lady? And then we have, of course, the whole movement of feminism. We talk about the alpha female. The alpha female is the woman who does not take nonsense. And I'm thinking, why do you have to be anything? Why do you need a qualification to know what it is that, works for you and what does not work for you? The point that I'm trying to make is that because of all of these perspectives and the filter through which we look at brokenness, we have curated a world where people are afraid to acknowledge what is wrong with them. So we find people struggling because they do not want people to know that something is wrong with them and they need to deal with it. Oh, there's the other side of the spectrum where men who, due to abuse in their past, have decided to renounce all things male. And now they are then identified as 7-year-old girls and all kinds of things. Just because the world says it's not okay to acknowledge that someone has hurt you and that broke something on the inside of you. The point, in my opinion, is that this perspectives and these erroneous beliefs, they mirror the world that we live in, a fallen world. If you go to Genesis chapter 1, the Bible said God looked at the earth. It was what? It was without form and void, and darkness was upon the face of the deep. What I saw, though, was that God did not bury his head in the sand to say, oh no, there's nothing wrong with the word. God took a look at the word he had created, and he acknowledged that something was wrong. The first thing that God said was wrong was that there was darkness. And so when he came by his spirit, he made a declaration. He said, light be. That was God saying, my word is broken, and my word is requiring wholeness. And in decreeing light, and light came, darkness began to dissipate. And from that point on, our word started to get better. The point that I'm making, and I'll continue to make throughout the course of this series, is that hiding brokenness is why we do not have a world that is whole. A young lady is raped. Not any fault of hers. But we say to her, don't tell anybody. So because of that, they do not go to the police station. They do not report the crime. And by so doing, not only do they continue to live in that brokenness, do not give themselves the opportunity for healing. Guess what else happens? They let the perpetrator go free, and then the next thing, he does it again. And then eventually the word is put out that there is a serial rapist in the neighborhood, simply because everyone that he had violated refused to own up to the fact that they've been violated. The thing about brokenness is that not all brokenness is our fault, but every brokenness is our responsibility to fix. If you want to get to wholeness, the first step is you have to acknowledge what broke you. Because unless we begin to have these conversations and no longer see them as sacred, we will have a strew and a wake of broken lives and destiny all around us. And the thing that I know is that once a person is broken and hurting, he will continue to break others. That's why you find families where brokenness becomes like their trademark. Because the first one who was broken did not seek healing. And because of that, the only way he knew to deal with the anger and the frustration that come with his brokenness is to lash out at another one, and by so doing, break them. And before we know it, it becomes a pattern in households, in communities, that brokenness is the only thing that thrives in their midst. The point of this episode is we need to acknowledge brokenness. We need to begin to make it comfortable for those who need to talk about how they've been broken. We need to begin to feel comfortable to have them have those conversations. We need to get to the place where when someone comes to us and tells us that something has been done to them, they've been violated, something is wrong with them, we do not change our expression and look at them like they are really the ones that are, it's their fault that something is wrong with them. We need to get to the place where we allow people to feel safe enough to show up to say, I know that I'm supposed to be whole, but I'm not okay in this moment. Because unless we do that, there are children who would never tell their parents what's breaking them, even if whatever is breaking them is right under their father's roof. There are wives who cannot share with their husbands how something broke them in the past. But the problem now is that it is impacting upon their marriage in the present. There are fathers that because they never spoke about their brokenness, their sons are towing the path of brokenness as well. And just because they won't talk about their own peculiar brokenness, their children cannot find healing for where they are. Here's the point. Every one of us is broken in one way or the other. But not all of us are able to come to healing. And what I'm hoping that this series would do is at least spark off the conversation or begin to minister to you individually as you listen, so that you begin to take a self-audit and look at what is wrong with you, so that you can begin to talk about it and seek help, so that you do not transfer the same brokenness to the next generation. The show is the NeverTheLess show, a show for organic leaders and leaderpreneurs. My name is Bidemi Mark-Mordi. Please remember to follow me on social media. I'm Facebook, YouTube, Twitter or X, Threads, Instagram, and the handle is the same, Bidemi Mark-Mordi. Subscribe to my YouTube channel. Go to wherever you find podcasts and look for NeverTheLess with Bidemi Mark-Mordi. And just hit the subscribe button so that you can participate in the rest of these episodes. Something else that I'm going to encourage you to help me do is share. If this was a blessing to you, share a quote, tweet something, or even share the entire episode with your circle of influence, so that people will begin to learn what it means to arrive at a place of wholeness. If Jesus tarries, I'll see you next week. But until then, remember that when you discover your purpose, you will live a powerful life. God bless you. I'll see you next week.
Thank you for listening to NeverTheLess. For more information and resources, call 080-90563-555 or send an email to bidemi@bidemimarkmordi.com. Don't forget, discovering your purpose helps you live more powerfully.